All right. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Right. So we are dealing here with the axisymmetric problems. In the third chapter, when we started seeing about the formulation of FEM, I have shown you how many types of elements we have. All right. Under that, we have discussed about axisymmetric problems also. I mean axisymmetric elements. Anybody remember, or can you tell what is axisymmetric elements? Anybody? There are so many people in the class. Speak out. Get back to your notes. See what is axisymmetric element and then answer. What happened? What are axisymmetric elements?
They are also known as ring type elements.
Yeah, ring type element is also one type of element that comes under axisymmetric elements. But I am asking you, what is axisymmetric element?
Bisection.
Sorry? I section, no? I have gave you an explanation that day.
It is used as analysis for the cylindrical storage tanks.
Yeah, okay. It is used in the analysis of cylindrical storage tank. All right. All these things are its applications. The point is, what are axisymmetric elements? You said a cylindrical element comes under axisymmetric. What kind of element is a cylindrical element? At least I'm giving you a hint to answer. What kind of element are cylinders or cones?
It is symmetric with respect to the geometry.
Yeah, be little bit more
1D or
precise.
2D.
That's right what Shravanti told. Just elaborate it up more. You can combine the answer what Priyanka is giving.
It
These
is
elements
symmetric
can be
to
computed.
any axis.
One member, please.
It is symmetric to any of the axes, ma'am. Either x-axis, y-axis.
Okay, symmetric. All right. When a 1D or a 2D, thank you. When a 1D or a 2D element, when it is revolved or rotated about an axis, the whatever the element that is formed due to the rotation about an axis, that element is called axisymmetric element. 2 points here. We have two words that are combined together. One is axis and the other one is symmetry. Here the condition lies in this way that are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, it's taking way too long to open.
Yeah.
Who was that? Mustafa, I'm making you the moderator. Okay, please check if somebody is disturbing the class. Oh. Right. See, there are two terms assembled here. One is axis and the other one is symmetry. Combined together, we are calling them as axisymmetric elements or problems. Either of the case, it's okay. Now, when is an element called axisymmetric is, first point as you people just mentioned, it is symmetric. I mean, it rotates about an axis. It may be any axis as she mentioned, but generally we consider that the element rotates about an axis and that axis is referred to z-axis. All right, a 3D element here. Suppose we have a rectangular element. All right, we have a rectangular element and let us think this is the z-axis. All right, now when this rectangular element revolves about this axis, yes, somebody wants to say something? Mustafa, please check who is unmuting themselves. We have only one session today. I don't want any disturbance in the class. Is that okay? Is the moderator there in the class? Mustafa, are you there in the class?
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Why is it taking so long for you
Hello.
to respond? Why is
Hello.
it taking so long for you to respond?
Your network is slow, ma'am. I'm on
Alright,
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
okay. Right. When the rectangular element rotates about this axis, centroidal axis, the resultant figure what we get, all right, is the cylindrical element. About what now? This cylindrical element is symmetric about this axis, and this is the element. Let's say this is the 2D element from which we have got this cylindrical element. All right. Now, is this, if at all it is just symmetrical about this axis, can we call this as axis symmetric? No, there is a condition. The condition lies like this. When an element, there are three conditions we can say. It has to be symmetric in geometry. Second, symmetric about let us frame this in this way. I'll frame it a little bit different. Symmetric about an axis with respective first one is geometry. Second is loading. And the last one is boundary conditions. See, if we see this element here about z-axis, it is symmetric. Okay, about z-axis, it is symmetric. Now, when the load, internal or the external load is applied, if at all this is the cross section, when the load is applied, supposedly if this is the UDL, when the load is applied, it has to be symmetric about the axis also. This is the z-axis what we are considering. The load also should be symmetric about this axis. And whatever the boundary conditions that are being taken for the problem analysis, even that has to be symmetric about the same axis. Please remember, it has to be about the same axis. Then only we are calling that as an axis symmetric problem. Alright. Now when this can happen is, we are assuming that the element to be isotropic and homogeneous. Only in such cases we are expecting that whatever the governing equations we take, maybe the equations of equilibrium, stress strain equations or strain displacement equations, all these will be applied only based on these conditions. Any doubts until this point? Any doubts until this point? Any doubts until this point?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay. Anywhere in the class from now on, if at all I see there is silence when something is asked, we'll end the session. Alright. How much interest you show in the class, only that much interest even I can show in explaining you anything. Alright. You people are good enough to prepare by yourself, so notes is already provided. So I'll also not take much effort to keep shouting on you, whether you're there in the class, whether you're listening, whether you understood or not. I'm not going to take that effort. If you want me to explain, I'll do that. If not, very well. Come, take the notes, move over. No problem for me, neither for you. You people are coming for the exam tomorrow, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. CRs of both the sections. Anybody, anyone from each section, come to me. Take the notes. You can make that as a soft copy or hard copy. That's your choice. You can take that and go. You have to return my copy tomorrow. That is because HOD sir wants us to give the complete material to you so that you can prepare. And sir also insisted to give important questions. And I already told, because you have a very good attendance in all of your classes so far. I've already submitted the attendance for this semester. All of the sessions you had very good attendance till now. So I'm not going to give the important questions, but because sir have informed, I'm giving you the important questions, but I cannot confirm how many of the questions will be there for your mid. All right. That's the result of the way you people have responded for the classes. All right, that's all I have to say. Tomorrow, if you're coming, come take the notes, get it xeroxed, or you can scan and keep a soft copy with you. But you have to have the material with you. I have given you the option to come and take. Now it's your choice. If you're not coming and taking, it's purely up to you. All right. Now, whoever were there for the um, the derivation of shape functions for the CST element, no, you can relate it to the axisymmetric problems very easily. The reason is, look here. Here we have for axisymmetric problems, it is not about the natural coordinate system or the local coordinate system or a Cartesian coordinate system. Here it is about, it is a 3D element in which there is a rotation happening about an axis. So here what we are going to use is, we are going to use polar coordinate system to analyze. Polar coordinate system. Now please do not tell that you don't know what is polar coordinate system. Anybody? What are the terms do you get in polar coordinate system? Terms that you get in polar coordinate system. Terms that we get in polar coordinate system. I'll wait until you answer. I'm very much free today. Last class of the semester. It's either you or me now.
Pole axis.
Polar coordinate system, what are the coordinates you'll have?
R cos theta, R sin theta.
Cos theta. From where did cos theta come? R is there, I agree. One is R. Next.
R comma theta, ma'am.
Yes, R comma theta. And there is the axis about which it rotates. So one is radial. The other one is circumferential. And the axial. So we're going to have R, theta and Z for analyzing or deriving the axis symmetric problems. So take down the points now. Note down the points. If a problem geometry, if a problem geometry is symmetric about an axis, if a problem geometry is symmetric about an axis, and the loading and boundary conditions are symmetric about the same axis, the problem is said to be axisymmetric. The problem is said to be axisymmetric. The axisymmetric problems are most conveniently defined by polar coordinate system with coordinates r, theta and z. If you open the PDF file that I have posted in the file section for FET channel, you can find a figure over there, the cylindrical coordinates. That will explain you what is the direction of r, what is the direction of theta, and what is the direction of z. Alright. Now, if at all when we are doing the analysis for axisymmetric problems, there are certain conditions that it has to satisfy. Alright. The first condition would be, please note down. The first condition would be the domain should have an axis of symmetry. The domain should have the axis of symmetry and is considered as z-axis. Second one, the loading is symmetric about the axis of revolution. Loading is symmetric about the axis of revolution. Now that is the z-axis. Now because it is the symmetric about the axis of revolution, it is independent of circumferential coordinate theta. Independent of circumferential coordinate theta. The same with the next condition also. Boundary conditions are also symmetric about x-axis. Therefore, it is independent of the circumferential coordinate theta. It means in whichever along whichever the axis it may consider to be rotated, that we are considering it as z-axis generally. But in about whichever axis it the revolution happens, the loading and the boundary conditions are considered to be independent of the circumferential coordinate theta. All right. So based on this conditions or the rules only, we are going to go forward. That is because, see, for the finite element analysis, what is the basic field variable or the basic unknown? What is the basic unknown?
Displacement.
Displacement.
Right, displacement. Displacement is the basic unknown. All right. Now, for axisymmetric problems, the basic unknown displacement itself is considered as independent of the rotational angle theta or the circumferential coordinate theta. In whichever angle it may rotate or whichever direction it may rotate, the displacement happening in the whole of the element is independent of the rotational angle theta. Now, from displacement only, using strain displacement relationship, we are finding out strain. Once we get U, we are finding out epsilon. Now once we get epsilon, from that only using stress strain relation, we are finding out what are the stresses that are incorporated in the element. So because U itself is independent of theta, what happens? The strains will also be independent of the angle theta or the coordinate theta, and finally the stresses also will be independent of the circumferential coordinate, that is the rotational angle theta. The reason for mentioning this is, wherever the stress terms that are with respect to theta or the strain terms that are with respect to theta, when we consider the governing equations, all those terms will become zero, because when we go for partial differentiation, the constant terms what we consider will become zeros, right? So U, epsilon and stress sigma, all the three are independent of a theta. The theta terms in them will become zero. All right, we'll move forward taking this into account. Right, see, I'll share this presentation here, that this PPT with you, or you can find this online also. All right, what we have seen till now, only that is there. See, these are some kinds of examples of axisymmetric solids. All right, an axisymmetric element is a solid structure, that is, it is a 3D element. All right, x y z axis will be there, but because if we are considering that to be symmetric about the axis, we are reducing that as a 2D element, in which because theta, it is independent of theta, we are confining the whole of the analysis to r comma z only. We are not eliminating the term theta, but because it is independent of it, when we go for the partial differentiation, what happens is it will end up to be zero. The terms that are incorporated with theta will become zero. That is why whenever we solve it, we are getting only the terms r and z out of r comma theta comma z. All right, it is not a 2D element. Please remember, it is a 3D element, which is symmetric about the axis and independent of the rotational coordinate. That is why we are reducing it into a 2D. That is, we are trying to analyze using the format what we use for a 2D element. All right, these are some of the problems what you can see. All right, a cylindrical structure, load is applied. See, the load is applied symmetrically. If at all we have an axis here, load is applied symmetrically. All right, this presentation will be sent to you, so there's no need to note anything now. From here after, you just have to concentrate on what is being told to you, because it is as same as what we have seen for a CST element, but a 3D. Even if it is 3D now, the theta term is eliminated. So it again comes down to be a 2D element only. All right. Only the analysis we are considering that to be a we are taking the 2D analysis consideration, but it is not a 2D element ultimately. See, there are another examples for axisymmetric solids. This is in the software. Okay, that is how the discretization is done and the solution for different elements are taken into account. All right. See, if you see here in this picture, here the z-axis, the rotation is happening along z-axis, and the symmetry is also taken about a z-axis. Generally, we consider the symmetry to be in around about z-axis. All right. Now here in the middle, if you see the figure in the middle, this is the ring element. The ring element whose cross section is triangular in nature. That is, when you cut open the ring element, you can see the cross section is triangular. There is always other types of elements also. If you see the figure to the complete right, the cross section is rectangular over there. It is still a ring element, but the cross section is rectangular. Alright, axisymmetric problems can be analyzed by finite elements of revolution called axisymmetric elements. Each element consists of solid ring because it is revolving around an axis, about an axis, making it a solid. So when it revolves, whenever you do a cross section, when you take a section, it will have a certain shape from which the ring element are formed. So that can be a triangular element, it can be a rectangular element, it can be a quadrilateral element. All right. So for our syllabus, if you checked what is there in unit 5, we have the shape functions and elemental stiffness to be derived for a ring element with a triangular cross section. That is what is here in the middle center. All right. If you see what we have theta, we have a z, and we have r coordinates for the figure. See, the directions of z, theta and r are clearly shown here based upon the cross section. What we have taken as r, theta, z. All right. Now that element here, from the figure what we have seen now, if at all I'm taking only the cross section, what do we have over there? See, I, j, m, 3 terms. I, j, and m. Now these are the nodes for the triangular element in the cross section of the ring. So what do we have here? Eliminating theta, because we are considering it is independent of theta. What terms are we going to have here? We are going to have coordinates ri and zi. R, theta, z, right? So eliminating theta, rj, zj. And now here it is rm, zm. This directly represent the similar pattern what we have taken for, sorry?
ZMM, you have written ZJ.
Yeah. Zm. Now if we clearly see, thank you. Now if we clearly see, this exactly resembles what we have taken for the CST element with nodes 1, 2 and 3, what we had? We have x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. Is it not? But what do we have here? x1 is ri, y1 is zi, x2 is rz, y2 is zj, x3 rm, y3 zm. So similar to the derivations what we have seen for the CST element can be directly adopted for this one. If at all it is the ring element with a rectangular cross section. For rectangular cross section, whatever the terms what we have taken for a 2D rectangular element, how did we derive the shape functions considering the coordinates, that can be adopted. All right. Axisymmetric is not that difficult, but the thing is you have to understand the directions. All right. See, for the general global coordinate system, we have seen what are the equations of equilibrium in unit 3. All right. Anybody remember them? Equations of equilibrium. Many people got 6 out of 6 for that question in your mid one. So I suppose you all know it. Right? It would be dou sigma x by dou x. Somebody continue. Many people got 19. Now your people are not answering. Should I reduce the marks or what? What you got? It must be a copied papers thing. Equations of equilibrium. All right, let's not waste time. When it comes to the axisymmetric problem, here we are going to have r comma theta comma z. So here body force with respect to r, body force with respect to theta, body force with respect to z, r comma theta comma z, that was incorporated, and the equations of equilibrium are taken in this format. How is this taken? Already in our solid mechanics or strength of materials, we have already seen how it is taken for a 3D element when we consider the polar coordinate system. So there's no point of explaining it again. You have to review it for yourself. All right. So these are the equations of equilibrium. Now after equations of equilibrium are taken, the next thing is we have strain displacement relation. See, remember that how we went for the 2D element in the beginning in unit 3 or unit 2. We have taken equations of equilibrium, then we have taken strain displacement relation, then we have found out the stress strain relationship, from which we got a D matrix. Here also for axisymmetric problem the same pattern is taken. That is, what are the equations of equilibrium? That is, what are the governing equations? One is equations of equilibrium, the next comes the strain displacement relationship, and finally then it comes to stress strain relationship, from which we will get the D matrix. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to find out what is the D matrix for an axisymmetric element or with a triangular cross section. All right, so this is equations of equilibrium when it for an axisymmetric problem considering polar coordinate system. And next comes the strain displacement relationship. See, generally we will have epsilon x, y and z, but here the terms are polar coordinates. So epsilon r, epsilon theta, epsilon z. These are the direct strains, and then we have shear strains. Gamma r theta, gamma r z, gamma theta z. But I clearly told in the beginning of the session itself that whenever the terms that comes into picture, because we are considering the symmetry of the geometry about the z-axis, it is independent of the circumferential coordinate theta. So what happens out of this? This term will be eliminated, dou v by dou theta, dou u by dou theta. Wherever the dou theta comes, those terms will be eliminated. All right. So the reduced terms you can see in the next slide. In the notes, I think that in the PDF that I've sent to you. So this is the PDF that I've sent in the file section. See, the dou u sigma r have become, sigma r is dou u by dou r. The point here is dou theta, sigma theta, sorry, epsilon theta is u by r. What was epsilon theta? 1 by r into dou v by dou theta. This term where dou theta is there got eliminated. And what is the term we have now? U by r. That is epsilon theta. Alright. The other terms where we have seen, see, it is completely the shear strains that is completely tangential. The whole term is going to be zero. All right, so gamma r theta and gamma theta z are zeros. So what terms we are left over with? We are left over with epsilon r, epsilon z, epsilon theta and gamma rz. All right. Now these are the strain displacement relationship for the axisymmetric problem what we have. All right. Now finally, when the whole stress strain relationship what we have done in the general 3D element other than the axisymmetric problem, in the similar manner we will end up getting the constitutive relative matrix. There is no change. The only change what we can say is in the coordinate system, our x comma y comma z have just become r comma theta comma z here. The whole constitutive relative matrix remains same. No difference. All right. Out of this, which terms are becoming zeros and which are being eliminated is what we have to see. All right. Constitutive relative here in the presentation what is shown on the screen, they have written Poisson's ratio as nu. Sometimes Poisson's ratio is taken in this also. Generally what we take is mu. Most of the textbooks take it as nu. All right, either mu or nu, either of the cases it is Poisson's ratio only. All right. Now in axisymmetric stresses and strains, see, I already told you axisymmetric problems, because of the symmetry about the z-axis, the stresses are independent of theta. Therefore, all derivatives with respect to theta vanishes and the circumferential, that is the in the tangent direction, that means the shear direction, shear strains, the displacement component is 0. So what are the terms that are eliminated in whole of the equation? What we have seen there is gamma r theta, gamma theta z, tau r theta, tau theta z are going to be zeros. Now we are left over with gamma epsilon r, epsilon theta, epsilon z and gamma rz. There is going to be only one shear strain, that is with respect to the plane rz, the plane r theta or the plane theta z are eliminated because it is independent in that direction. So taking that into account, now what is theta r? We have seen, I mean epsilon r, we have seen the values. The whole of the D matrix is reduced to this one. From the basic of the 2D analysis, what we know, we got a 6 by 6 matrix of D. But because the axisymmetric problem is independent of the circumferential coordinate, it is reduced to a 4 by 4 matrix when it comes to D, 4 by 1 matrix when it comes to stresses and strains. Only these stresses and strains that are present in the axisymmetric element. You may note down this relation, because problems, if at all they are asked in the axisymmetric problem, generally it would be with respect to the D matrix or the B matrix. We have seen the D matrix till now. We will see what is B matrix further. Please give me a yes once you're done.
Yes, ma'am. Done.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. See, now when we have to derive a stiffness matrix and the elemental stiffness or the body force matrix, what we generally do is we begin with the shape functions. To be frank, when it is about FEA, it is all about the shape functions. What are shape functions do? It will relate to any point in between the element with the nodal points. So what we get when we have the values at nodes that are related to the adjacent elements in the whole of the structure. So when we are doing analysis, the basic what we can do is we start from the shape functions. All right. Supposedly, if we have the a big structure which is discretized into triangular elements. All right. We are taking that triangular element, one of the triangular element out, which is of axisymmetric in nature, that we are now trying to find out the shape functions. I've clearly told you the shape functions what we are trying to find out here exactly resembles the three-noded triangular element, that is the basic CST element. So if you're very much thorough with how we followed in the procedure for determining the shape functions for the CST element, this one will also be very easy. All right. So this is the term that we are concentrating. One triangular element with M, I and J. What we have seen here, see M, I, J and M, irrespective of wherever you place the nodes. All right. For this, we are going to find out the shape functions. So the step one when we are trying to find out the stiffness matrix equations is first discretize and select the element. We have selected one of the triangular element from the whole discretized. Now what is the displacements that are incorporated with respect to the element is at point I we are going to have u comma w. U comma w means one in the r direction, the other one is in the z direction. At node I, at node j, at node m. All right. In x comma y, it is u comma v. Here the theta is 0, so there is no point of v here. So u comma w. So ui wi, uj wj, um wm at respective nodes I comma j comma m. All right. This is the elemental displacement matrix. Nodal displacement matrix. All right. Now, if you remember, we have taken polynomial functions or displacement functions as polynomial equations when we are trying to find out the shape functions. All right. See, if at all it was for a CST element, if you remember. What did we do for the CST element? We have taken u is equal to alpha 1 plus alpha 2x plus alpha 3y. In the similar way, when it comes down to axisymmetric problems, what we are doing? We are taking u is equal to a1 plus a2r. Here the x coordinate is r and a3 z. Y coordinate is z. That is what we are doing. When it comes down to v, what we did there when it was for v, alpha 4 plus alpha 5x plus alpha 6y. Here what we have w coordinate and it is a4 a5r plus a6z. So these are going to be the displacement functions from which we are going to derive the shape functions. See, what I'm just trying to show you how the relation between the basic 2D element and axisymmetric element will be. Just the difference is the coordinate system. Rest all would be same. That you have to understand. All right, where it was our, just a minute. All right. Did you understand what I'm trying to show here? The same, if at all you want for reference, you can keep your nodes of CST element aside and check what we are trying to do. All right. So now u and w r comma z will become in the matrix form 1 r z 0 zeros 0 0 1 1 r z a1 a2 a3 a4 a5 a6. All right. So first we'll start with u. So what is this you think? What is this you remember? Because the displacement function is taken in this format, when it is at coordinate I, what will happen? It is a1 plus a2 ri at coordinate I. So a3 zi. Similarly for uj, similarly for um. Same goes for wi, wj and wm. That is the displacements functions with respect to the r direction with respect to z direction. The same thing is shown here. All right. So rather than starting for the w's or u all together, what we can do is we are trying to find out for u first. So what happens? a1, a2, a3 will become, this is the inverse of the matrix. The equations that are shown in step 2 are taken in matrix form and we have find out what is a1, a2, a3. Did we do this anywhere already in the same format? I said you, I'm free. I will wait until your answer. I will wait until I'll get answer from you.
Yes,
Open.
ma'am, we did.
Yeah. In where did we do that?
In CST polynomial functions, ma'am.
Yes. Derivation of shape functions were a CST element using polynomial functions. The same pattern we are following it here also. All right. There the matrix was 1 x1 y1, 1 x2 y2, 1 x3 y3. Here it is 1 ri zi, 1 rj zj, 1 rm zm. That's the only difference, nothing more. The same pattern is followed and we are finding out the shape function. And at the end of the session, these are the shape functions that we reach. The shape functions, if you remember n1, n2, n3, it also resembled somewhat in the same way. A1, B1, C1 were there, if you check. And what are those A1, B1, C1 terms? See, here, alpha I, RJ ZM minus JRM. The same terms you would have seen in the CST element also. This is the adjourned matrix. Adjourned by det J. Det J, I mean the det of the matrix, however, will become the area of the triangle. And this is the adjourned. So these are the shape functions for the axisymmetric ring element with triangular cross section. Any doubts until this point? Any doubts until this point? I'm not going to continue until you answer. I became as stubborn as you people. Any doubts until this point?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. So next comes, after we got the shape functions, it is stress-strain relationship that we have to look into. We know what are the strain components. See, we got D matrix, we got the shape functions. Now we are heading to what is B matrix. All right, same pattern is followed. The same pattern is followed, and this is how we reach to B matrix. That is, we know we have U equations here, ui, uj, um, all these equations we have, and we know what is epsilon r. For example, it is dou u by dou r. So we have U equations for every component. It just have to be differentiated with respect to r. So wherever the r terms are there, so other than those terms, the other terms will get eliminated. So we will reach to the matrix like this. You know what is a B matrix already. All right. B matrix composes of terms that they are the partial differentiations of shape functions. That is what is B terms, if you remember. The elements of the B matrix are the partial differentiation of the shape functions for the element. All right. When you do the partial differentiation of the shape functions with respect to the coordinates, you will end up to this matrix, which is the B matrix. All right. Now, what is BI, what is BJ and BM? You can, if you sit and solve for the problem, you can understand. All right. Generally, it is not seen for you to completely solve the problem for all of the D, B, and K for the axisymmetric problems, because it is very big. But there are chances that you might be asked either to derive the D matrix or to derive the B matrix. So be prepared. All right. Or in the best way, deriving shape functions for the axisymmetric problem is generally asked. All right. So if you know how we did it for CST element, you can know it for axisymmetric problem. So you have, if you learn for axisymmetric problem, you will be knowing it for a CST problem. It is interrelated. So either of the cases, you have to learn one or the other element for sure. All right. So finally, the stress strain relation, we know what is stress is D matrix into B matrix into elemental displacement matrix. So this is the final stress strain relationship for the axisymmetric problem what we get. Shall we continue? See, however, there is no a need that we need to wait for you to note down or something, because I'll give you this presentation. However, tomorrow when you come, you can take this. I'll post this PDF in the file section of the channel. My handwritten notes, you can take a soft copy or a Xerox when you come for the exam tomorrow. So shall we move forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The elemental stiffness matrix, this K equation we have already seen for the CST element, for the rectangular element, for isoparametric element, whatever it is, that is the elemental stiffness matrix for a element. All right. When it comes to the elemental stiffness for axisymmetric, the same is taken, but here what do we have? It is symmetric about the axis, so the volume with the volumetric consideration is reduced and the circumference is taken into account, 2 pi r. So r is the variable, so 2 pi is taken out and the integration becomes with respective area. It is not into volume now, it becomes with respective area, and it is B transpose into D into B R, that is the radius, dr and dz. All right. I already told, when it is about the matrix multiplication for such a huge, what we need to do, we need to do multiplications, then integration for many multiplications are happening in this equation. So what did we take in isoparametric element? This is easily solved or analyzed using numerical integration, that is Gauss-Lagrange's quadrature technique. All right. The same thing is taken in axisymmetric problems also. The reason for me to just explain it this way is, all these terms, all these shape functions of the element, what is Gauss quadrature, what is the elemental stiffness, what is the displacement functions, all these are clearly given time and explained in unit 3 and unit 4. So if you have heard and if you are perfect with unit 3 and unit 4, unit 5 is very simple. It is just the application taken from unit 3 and unit 4 and getting a solution in for the axisymmetric problem. All right. So if you go through this, you can understand what is the from elemental stiffness, then we will get the force matrix also, what is body force matrix, what is surface tractions, or the any point loads are there for the member. All these equations we have seen it in the previous units. All right. So this is the force equation. See how body forces are distributed, that is mentioned. How are surface traction forces taken into account, that is also explained. All these things for a normal element, that means which is not an axisymmetric problem, it was explained clearly in the previous classes. So I'm not giving much time for this. All right. These are the surface traction Finally, when we have the stiffness matrix and force matrix, ultimately what we are trying to get is, we know the relationship. Force matrix is equal to K matrix into elemental displacement matrix. All right. So if we know what are the applied forces and we can find out what is the elemental stiffness, we will get the basic unknown. All right. Or if we have the basic unknown, we can find out the elemental stiffness, and with respect to these two, we can find out what might be the applied forces. All right. That is what is the solution. See, in the same presentation, you have some example problems given, all right, which are already solved. You can go through that, give little time for you to understand how each step is going, then this will become very easy. If you think one step is complicated and you leave the rest of them, you cannot finish this. All right. By the end of the class itself, the strength have become 30. So 15 students already left. Great. All right. So here ends your finite elements. All the topics have been covered. Please check from your syllabus if any of the topics are missing. Probably not, because we have seen all the topics one after the other very clearly. Notes is also there. You can come and take it. All right. The only thing that I wish to tell is, it is true that this is a complicated subject, but once you try and understand the basics, this is the easiest. All right. The only thing is you have to concentrate on your mathematics and the matrix solutions for matrices. From the governing equations, it is easy, however, to take it into matrix and do it. You just have to put your brains and think that I can understand the concept. If you don't understand the concept, how much ever I try or how much ever notes you have, no use. Now it is all up to you how you're going to perform for your exams. I did my part. It's on your shoulders now. All right. Important questions I'll give you before evening. All right. Prepare well for your internals also and for the externals. If before the exam or anything, if you have any doubts, because offline is an option already, you can come meet me in the college, but please inform me before that you'll be coming for any questions or anything. I need to make time for you, for me to give it for the explanations. All right. I'll see you tomorrow in the exam or to take the notes. Both the CRs, both the class CRs, any one of you can come and take the notes. All right. Important questions, I'll post it in the group itself. All right. And in unit 3 and unit 4, I have already given the assignment questions. All right, I hope you people have noted that down. There is one question. Let's not take two. All right, let's take one question from unit 3, one question from unit 4, and now shape functions for the axisymmetric element, axisymmetric ring element of a triangular cross section. That is the question from unit 5. 3 of the questions, because you have exams from tomorrow, I'm leaving it now, but I'll create the assignment and keep in the assignment section. I need the assignments to be submitted by Monday evening. All right, Saturday you'll finish your exams. Everything you have to take it from the notes itself. So 3 questions to be written in A4 sheets. All right, write only your roll number on the paper. All right, find your BE 7th semester A or B and your roll number. Do not write your name. I know all your names. I don't need your names in the assignment paper. All right, write your name on that. Make it into single PDF. Do not send me pictures. Make it into single PDF and submit in the assignment section only. For your previous assignment and for your internal re-exam, you know, gathering your answer scripts itself is a mess. One will send it in the mail, one will send it in the WhatsApp, one will upload in the file section. I don't want the mess. Submit it in the assignment section only. I'll give access to everybody. I already gave in the previous time also. I don't know what happened. All right, submit in the assignment section only. Then only, because this is online mode, no point of manipulation. I'm clearly mentioning only if you submit your assignment, you're going to get the 5 marks for assignment. All right, quiz, however, along with the question paper only, you are going to get it for your exam tomorrow, from tomorrow. So quiz marks will be given based on the exam only. Your internal 20, assignment once you submit. So Monday evening would be the deadline for the assignment. All right, what assignment questions I have given? Every time in the class I mentioned, I'm not going to do that again. Contact your friends who were present in the class and do it. It would be the responsibility of the CRs of both the sections to mention what are the assignment questions to your classmates who are absent. Who are present, they might definitely know it. All right, do your exams well. All the best for the internal and also for the external. All right, I'm ending the session here, and also the finite element